Commissioner Falk,
Here.
Commissioner Krizan,
Present.
Commissioner Bauer,
Here.
Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
and Vice Chair Collar.
Here.
And for the record, Chair Abelman is absent today, but we do have quorum, so we can conduct business.
All right, Commissioner Bauer, can you lead the salute to the flag?
Absolutely. Please stand. Put your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now on to approving the order of agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the order of agenda.
A motion?
Motion by Commissioner Bauer, second by Commissioner Falk. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the order of the agenda is approved. Do we have any blue folder items?
Yes, we received one blue folder item today related to M1, the liaisons report.
All right, thank you. All right, now on to the consent calendar. We have two items. Does anybody want to pull anything? I assume there's no public comment on the consent calendar?
No public comment.
All right, thank you. All in favor? I'm sorry, I need to take a motion to accept the motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Bauer, second by Commissioner Falk. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. On to item H, public participation on non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on the agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. We have any public participation on non-agenda items?
We have no comments online.
All right, and nobody on Zoom?
Nobody on Zoom.
All right, thank you. Ex parte communication, we have no public hearings, so nothing. Let's go on to item L1.
Do you want to do F2? Did you want to do minutes?
Minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped something here. The minutes were approved as part of F2. Part of F, yeah, that's part of the consent calendar.
Okay.
All right, so on to item L1.
Yes, we'll have our leasing agent, Brian Campbell, come up to give his quarterly waterfront leasing update and share some updates on recent activities in the waterfront.
Vice Chair Collar, thanks for the invitation. Commissioners, thank you for another opportunity. I was here on January, and this will be an update on what we discussed then, plus some interesting additional data. And I appreciate city staff for the invitation as well. So tonight, I'll talk a little bit about what we saw happening in January with the economy and what's going on right now from a macro standpoint. Then we'll take it down to the South Bay area and then focus in on the actual waterfront properties that we handle the leasing, and I also assist with the property management on it. So let me start off with a market report, if we can get the screen to cooperate. There we go. Okay, this is the Southern California Commercial Real Estate Market Report. This is brand new data that literally was just published within the last couple of days. So in January, we were talking about how the economy started looking like it was wobbling, and it certainly is. And as all of us know from reading various newspaper reports, there's a bifurcated economy out there. I mean, people that are professionals, people that are in tech, people that own their houses, stock, have retirement accounts, they're doing fine. And those are the ones that are driving spending. However, that's not the majority. The majority of people are struggling right now. And some of the brief data that they found up there. So for office, elevated vacancy, Los Angeles is in desperate shape. Downtown Los Angeles has had multiple big new high-rise buildings go into foreclosure. To give you an idea of how bad the market is in downtown, the rental rates at Pier Plaza, which I would not consider comparable with a downtown office building, are not that much below what you can do a deal with downtown. By the time you factor in tenant improvement dollars, the free rent, ours might even be a little bit more expensive. I mean, it's shocking how bad the office market is. Retail vacancy at 5.7%. That may not sound that bad on the surface, but to compare it to the financial crisis back in 2008, 2010, 2011, the retail vacancy only hit 6.1%. It was 6% or 6.1%. So the vacancy now in Southern California is almost as bad as it was during the financial crisis. So that's bad. Restaurants, it's shocking. 60% of restaurant operators report traffic declines. It's a fact now, the data's out there, that people are eating out less. I mean, I just took my two boys to the movies on Saturday night, and it was, I think, $170. And we ate at the theater. So between parking, the cost of the movies, the food, and none of us are drinkers. And it was just shocking. And we were talking about, how does the average person, I'm older, I've got a career, that's fine. But how does the average person, be able to afford that? Well, how they do it is they go out less often. And that's having a ripple effect all the way down to our tenants down in the harbor area also. And so the consumer, we just talked about that. It's a divided economy. AI, high tech, income strong. Traditional sectors are getting beaten down pretty badly. So here's some of the structural issues. The hybrid and remote work has materially slowed the leasing velocity. Orange County, it's spread all through Southern California. Private credit has taken the place of traditional lending, which carries higher interest rates, and it makes it even more difficult for landlords to be able to meet their cash flow requirements on it. So the flight to quality, now this is third-party data. I don't agree with all of it, just from my perspective, but the Class A, where it says Class A office leasing, that's what this page is about, says it's thriving. Some is thriving. As it states there, the flexible, well-located offices are doing okay. If you're downtown, you're not. I don't care what the quality of the building is. It's just a very difficult market down there. Class B and C is really distressed. Pier Plaza is a Class C building. It's 40 years old. It's wood. It's exposed to the elements all the time. Can look kind of rough. Property management works constantly with painting and maintenance, and they're always having to play catch up. Those buildings are beyond their useful life. They're not going to fall down. When Bill Brand was mayor, he used to come down and walk the project with me, and he asked me, he says, "Are these buildings going to fall down?" That's what some developers keep telling me. And I said, no, they're just going to become increasingly expensive to maintain and keep up. So they'll last another 40 years. It just depends on how much paint and duct tape and shingles and things like that you want to invest into it. So effectively, the tenants that are down there now at Pier Plaza, for example, they're just paying the maintenance. When the city bought Pier Plaza out of that master lease, it was never intended to be a real estate investment. It was never intended to be a moneymaker. It was to get control of that property back, keep it as leased as they could. So hopefully the cash flow would pay for the maintenance on it until the harbor could be redeveloped. So, for those out there that say, why is it Pier Plaza cash flowing more? Well, it was never meant to cash flow. That wasn't the purpose. I mean, we bounce around between probably 88 to 90% lease down there. We just had a couple of smaller tenants, go away on us, but then we get some tenants to replace them. So compared to the market, we're doing pretty good down there. So it's important, I think, when you look at projects like Pier Plaza, to have the big picture in place and not just show up down there and say, well, why isn't this making us money? Why isn't this a great real estate investment? It was never meant to be. It was just meant to control that property again. So the investors are shifting. The institutional investors are not out there. They're shedding these properties, and you're seeing more entrepreneurial value add, meaning people that go in, buy distressed properties, fix them up, try to lease them, put new financing on them, and then hope that as the market recovers, if it recovers, that's where they'll make the money. So this is the retail leasing market. As we talked about before, it's 5.7% vacancy rate. Average asking rent per month, $277 a square foot. I mean, to give you an idea, we're at $225, $250, down at International Boardwalk. Some of our tenants pay more than that. That's a difficult number to really compare because retail spans such a wide variety of different types of properties. Here's the big numbers. Net absorption, 530,000 square feet. 500,000 square feet more vacant retail space came on the market than was leased. So we are in this downward trend of more and more vacancies. We all see it when we drive through different parts of town with the vacant storefronts. Construction deliveries obviously are way down. That's year over year, 49% decrease, and last year was not a big year. So construction is way down. You can't build most buildings right now and rent it at a number that makes sense in today's market, not with so much vacant inventory that's out there.
Hey, Brian, real quick question on that. How much are we getting in the Pier Plaza? What is that average as far as cost per square foot?
We're getting $250 to $275 per square foot.
In Pier Plaza?
Yeah, our rental rates have never gone down.
Okay.
Down there. The rest of the market has been going down. Ours has been staying, actually it's going up. We have built into every lease. Council gave me approval probably 4 years ago when I saw the ability to raise our rents a little bit, commensurate with the market, to add a 3% annual increase to all of our office leases. So they'll start off at $250, $275 for a more desirable space, and then a 3% annual increase on that.
Okay.
So the thriving categories, as we talked about, specialty, discount grocers, quick service restaurants, the QSRs, medical, dental, fitness studios, luxury, Class A mall locations. Those are all doing much better than the Class B retail centers. Soft goods, specialty apparel are getting killed. Traditional malls, without an experiential anchor. Now think one of these modern bowling alleys or like a Dave and Buster, something that's going to bring a lot of people there for the experience. And the net absorption is very, very negative. Again, it's probably the worst since the financial crisis. So this is as opposed to just retail, this is the restaurant leasing market. So there it is, 40% of consumers cutting restaurant frequency. I mean, we all see it, feel it, notice it. 60% of operators reported traffic declines. Projected industry traffic growth less than 1%. It's flat, if that. The restaurant inflation is 3.9% versus grocery inflation, 2.4%. Here's another number which I disagree with. I don't think there's any way that inflation for groceries is 2.4%. I think that is wildly inaccurate. I think it is much higher than that. I think a lot of these numbers, unfortunately, are politicized and they're driven down. But the people on the street know what the real answer is. It's certainly higher than 2.4%.
Hey, Brian, now our numbers, are we also down at our restaurants down here? Are they seeing this decrease as well? Are we seeing it on our returns up in the...
The retail shops, I think, are doing okay. Our little bars and restaurants seem to be doing pretty good.
Okay.
And as we get into some of the data behind like Beach Life and the Kite Festival and the In-N-Out, car show and things like this, I was just talking to one of the restaurant owners just this week. I was having lunch down there, and every time that we have one of these big events, their business is up. So people this spring, our tenants seem to be doing better. Okay. Not all of them, but I would say 2/3 probably. So we're hanging in there. I mean, we've got something that very few people have, which is we're on the ocean. I mean, we're a destination automatically. Even if it's just a beach down there, people would come down there. So we got the beach, we got the wharf, we got International Boardwalk. I mean, we're an interesting place to come to anyway. So I think that helps us from a leasing and small business person's standpoint.
All right, and just one other for clarification, these numbers of 40%, these are national numbers, correct?
This is Southern California.
Southern California numbers, okay.
Yeah, I tried to break this down to just Southern California because the national numbers are just all over.
Okay.
All right, so here's the consumer spending. Already talked, a bit about that already, but you can see LA County retail sales growth. I mean, it's flat if that. California unemployment, well, 5.5%. I think the underemployment is significantly higher than that. I know all of these small businesses that we have are having a hard time hiring people. And, and they're being squeezed on their profit margins also, because first off, they got to pay more. The minimum wage is up. The cost of goods is up. Their rent may be up. Their insurance is up. I mean, we see this every single day. With our tenants having to go out and renew their insurance policies, to meet the requirements that the city's got, it's just killing them. I mean, some of their insurance can double in price. I think one of our restaurants down there, I won't drop the name, but I think their insurance went from about $100,000 a year to well over 200 in 1 year. Now, that's hard to make up, by just selling more food and drinks. All right, so here's the key takeaways on this first section I wanted to cover. So there's the office, there's the retail, it's bifurcated market. The people who've got money are spending it. Restaurants, everybody's cutting back. Restaurant owners are being squeezed because of inflation and people cutting back and the divided economy. And at any point here, I've got a lot of slides. At any point here, just continue doing what you're doing and ask questions and I'll slow down.
Okay.
All right, so there's some of my sources and attributions on it. I try to bring in, vetted data to rely on. And again, not all of us in the industry agree on everything, but it's good to have your presentations like this based on generally accepted good data from quality firms. All right, so here's the Beach Cities Palos Verdes market. I wish we could take Palos Verdes and San Pedro out of this. I think it would give us a better look at, Torrance, the beach cities. But unfortunately, the way the data comes, it includes Palos Verdes. So it's not a lot of retail, although you got the promenade and the peninsula and places like that off Silver Spur up in Palos Verdes. But this gives you a good idea as to what's going on even in our market. So 12-month deliveries, that means new space coming on board, 0. 12-month net absorption, 92,000 negative square feet. Okay, it was 500,000 throughout Southern California. Just in our market, it's almost 20% of that, almost 1/5 of it. Vacancy rate, we match with the rest of Southern California. That's bad. And the market asking rent growth, it's negative. Wow. So landlords are cutting their prices. They're giving more free rent. They're giving more tenant improvement dollars. That's one of the challenges that we have, being municipally owned real estate. You're not traditional real estate landlords. You don't have a bunch of tenant improvement dollars built into the city budget to try to bring tenants in. I mean, I'm talking to a tenant right now and they moved into a fairly large space, in this market area, and they got 3 years free rent and $65 per square foot for tenant improvement dollars. Now, if you're looking at 30,000 square feet, you could do the math of what $65 per square foot is. They're getting 7 figures in cash and 3 years rent abatement to be able to go in. So that's one of the things that we've got to look at. We've got free rent. That's something the city can do. City doesn't have millions of dollars to put into attracting tenants. We're able to work around that, but we've got to be creative and flexible in order to be able to compete sometimes. Catherine knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The harbor director. So I'm going to skip through some of these slides that are just numbers. I don't think they're that relative to what we're specifically talking about tonight here in Redondo Beach. So that's the coverage area. Our demographics, we enjoy a high income coastal residence. I mean, people are rich with their real estate. It's high paying jobs. We're much better off despite this economy than many parts of Southern California. So leasing activity, that jumped out at me. It's only half of what the annual average was during the years 2015, 2019. It's very slow. Our rent level, $41 versus $38 per square foot for the market. I mean, that's just the difference of 25 cents on a monthly basis. Annual rent growth, negative, it's going down. 10-year rent adjustment. I don't know how they can project out 10 years. I think it's difficult to project out 1 year. I mean, there's no telling what's going to happen in the next year, with tariffs and the economy and the political situation around the world. I think we're going to find out a lot this week with the China summit. There'll probably be some big announcements that come out of that. And construction pipeline, the only construction going on is down at West Harbor, down where the battleship Iowa is. That's it, out of this whole area, because it just doesn't make financial sense to be able to start building a spec building and hope you're going to be able to lease it and make cash flow. So this is a lot of data that we've already discussed. Rental rate, malls are doing okay, better. A lot of these malls have, as you've noticed, they've shifted away from just pure retail. I mean, if you go to the promenade on the peninsula, for example, up in the hill, they've got lots of medical down there. They're looking at moving other professional groups in. They're even looking at other areas of turning them into housing. And I think that's what's going to help malls in the future is I think the days when people just go out to shop only are behind us. I think they like to go out and go bowling or go eat or go see their doctor and then go eat or something like this. So I think that's where the future is going. And those mall owners that have got the money and the patience to be able to convert a lot of these malls are doing better around the country. This isn't that relevant. There's 100 Fisherman's Wharf. That's Bob Resnick's building. They leased the underground area recently. Hopefully they're going to be opening soon. All right, so this is just a general summary of it. High vacancy at 5.7%. Historically, that's high. Leasing activity is declining. Rents are under pressure. They're going down. And the only building going on is West Harbor over in San Pedro. The investment sales are doing okay, but that's entrepreneurial people swooping in and taking over projects that are in trouble and trying to turn them around. All right, so unfortunately, the graphics dropped off part of this. This was actually a much better looking slide. I don't know if it's part of the hard copies that I gave you right there. Okay, so this is beach life. This is the first beach life analysis that we did. Now, we looked at it a couple of different ways, as you'll see, to try to get a three-dimensional look at what was going on down there. But if you take a look at our comparison, there is what we call baseline is the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before beach life. In other words, normal weekend. And then May 1st and 2nd on beach life. Our methodology on this is we left Sunday off because there was an interruption to be able to get down there on the pier. It didn't open until much later in the afternoon. I didn't even want to run those numbers because I just thought it wasn't going to accurately reflect what happened. So here's the raw numbers for those 2 days for beach life, but then we extrapolated a couple pages in what the third day probably would have done based on the trajectory of the first 2 days. So the visitor lift, that's how many more people over that Friday and Saturday, May 1st and 2nd versus a typical weekend. It's almost double. Beach life visitors, 46,000 people over just those 2 days. And you'll see the comparison over a normal day. Average dwell time, well over 3 hours. Incremental spend, $1.87 million. It brings a lot of money down here, and you'll see the demographics of the people that go to beach life and how it's changed over time, and it has. All right, so this is much better graphics. So the baseline, typical weekend, Friday, Saturday, 15,000 visitors. Beach life the very next weekend, 46,000. Average dwell time, hour and a half. Average dwell time for beach life, 3.5 hours. Every minute that people spend longer down there, they are generally spending money. There's calculations that they've got, which we refer to later on in this report, that shows how the longer people stick around, the more money they will spend, the better for the local economy. Means they're enjoying themselves. Means whatever Beach Life is doing is getting people to stick around more than an hour. You'll see one of the other comparisons with the Kite Festival, for example. Big difference in how long people stick around for the Kite Festival versus Beach Life. There's a lot of lessons we can learn in here, and our software allows us to compare up to 9 different events and compare what worked, what didn't work, who the people are, the demographics, how much money they spend. It's very powerful stuff. So Beach Life, obviously, just on the raw data, the Friday and Saturday is big numbers. This is the dwell time. We just talked about that. Here's the hourly traffic pattern. Now, why this matters is if you're going to have a lot of people attracted to your project, you want them spread out over a longer period of time. That's good. You don't want them all showing up between, say, 12 and 2. You want them spread out. And you can see where Beach Life ramped up steadily all the way till 7 p.m. when normally there's, just over 1,000 people down there? Well, this is almost 5,000 people. So they didn't just double the number of people that came, but during certain hours, there are 4 or 5 times as many people. That's good, that's healthy. Talking to our restaurants down there in International Boardwalk, for example, they do great during Beach Life. So here's where we get into the demographics. Typical weekend, baseline, April 24th, 25th, the weekend before, that was just a couple weeks ago. So who are the people that are coming? All pretty local, generally. This says hyper local. I mean, I look at it as just local, but Redondo Beach, Torrance, Hermosa Beach, I mean, it's South Bay. When Beach Life opens up, the heat map that I've got, they come from San Diego, they come from Santa Barbara, they come from the Inland Empire. I mean, it really draws in a lot more people, which is really healthy for the local economy. Because a lot of these people wouldn't normally come to Redondo Beach. Maybe if they go to Beach Life, they'll think, well, we should come down here a little bit more often. We should, go to Quality Seafood or experience more of it than just what we did for Beach Life.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I know we get local hotel tax. Did you look at, maybe you have it, the difference in just like the percent vacancy between those 2 weekends and like the hotels down there?
I've got anecdotal information. I've not got information directly from the hotels. I'm not sure that they would necessarily even release it. The city would be able to figure it out just from the TOT,
Right.
transient occupancy tax for the audience out there.
Right.
But I heard that they got top rates for the rooms. I heard that they were full. You can actually track and see how many people went from, for example, the Sonesta Hotel over to Beach Life and back. You can track how big that is, and you can see that a lot of people were staying at that hotel and then going across the street to the festival. So these demographics are interesting. So baseline versus the green, which is the Beach Life Festival, the median income is 26% higher for a Beach Life Festival goer. It's significant. Average income, 29% higher. Median disposable income, it's an important number, 23% higher. Discretionary income, median discretionary income, 35% higher. House values higher. Median wealth higher. Households in poverty less. So this is out of all the events that go on annually in Redondo Beach, the Beach Life Festival brings in the most affluent, best educated across the board. And I'll show you where these demographics are changing, I think for the better, year over year, and what Beach Life brings in. We'll hit that in a minute. So this is a lot of the same numbers just packaged up a little bit differently. This is ethnicity and language. Blue is baseline, red is beach life. And you can see how that changes. Maybe it was based on the bands that they had or the marketing. I mean, who knows? But you certainly could find that out if you wanted to devote enough time into drilling into those dynamics. So education, you can see here in the red. So beach life brings a very highly educated crowd. They're more likely to be single household, more likely to be married. Average vehicles, well, the same. Employment profile, professionals, educational, office admin, construction. And you can see that the managerial, executive, professional specialty is definitely higher than what, than who comes on a typical weekend down in Redondo Beach. So on the left, baseline weekend blue, orange in the center, and then the difference. On the bottom of that slide is some of the data that we extrapolated from, and the additional dollars spent over a typical weekend by beach life is in the $2 million range. It's significant, and they're spending that money in the local restaurants, shops, whatever. That's not counting things like parking revenue and other sources of of income. Like all the moorings out there were completely rented, during the weekend. So this just sums up the key findings from that weekend. Huge numbers, hugely successful just from the numbers. I don't know what their internal numbers are, but just from the outside looking in, hugely successful. Definitely an increase in people over the prior year. So it is definitely growing. They're definitely bringing in people from further away. And again, we lost some graphics here. Now, this is a comparison. The last comparison was the weekend before beach life against beach life. This comparison is last year's beach life versus this year's beach life. And this is where I'll get into a little bit of what I was talking about. So let me get to where we adjust the numbers of people. Okay, so here we are. We used a solid basis to extrapolate what Sunday would have looked like if it wasn't interrupted. And so we estimate the 3-day total was 57 to 60,000 people. Now some of those people are counted twice, that leave and then come back on multiple days. But it is definitely an increase over the year before. And again, this is the comparison for the median house value, median discretionary income, average income. This is where it gets it gets interesting. Okay, so the colors here are, in this case, orange for 2025, blue for 2026. Now take a look at the educational level here. Last year versus this year goes down. Take a look at how many people had graduate degrees that went to beach life. Last year versus this year goes down just a little bit. High school grad or higher goes down just a little bit. What's happening here, the average dwell time went down a little bit. 15 minutes when you're talking about 3 hours isn't that much. But let me go here. All right, so here's the key trends. Festivals growing. I mean, I think the data backs that up conclusively. Visitor affluence declined slightly. The reason that we're seeing is that they're pulling in a broader audience. It's more diverse from an ethnicity standpoint. It's a more diverse from an educational standpoint. That could be a function of their marketing, their bands. I mean, who they had up there performing. We think the way we look at it in the industry is that that's a healthy thing. I mean, I don't think it's good to have. I don't think it's good to have an event that's too elitist. It's like having a conference for the Mensa Society or something like that. I mean, who cares about that, right? So we think that is a healthy sign. Crowds are getting bigger. They're spending more money. It's a more diverse crowd. They're coming from further away. They're obviously spending their money down on International Boardwalk.
Could you go back before that one last one? Visit frequency declined 1.32. Oh, I see. Okay.
It's a decline, but it is not by much. And that's who came on Saturday and Sunday. How many people bought multi-day tickets versus just one ticket? Right. I don't know what their prices were, compared to the year before, but that may have had some impact on it. Now, as far as educational level and affluency level changing a little bit, going down this year, both years, these are people at the peak of the economic ladder. I mean, this is the upper end of people. So. All right, so this is the Kite Festival. And I'm sorry, the graphic just got dropped on this. So we move beyond Beach Life Festival. This is the Kite Festival. What we measured was the Sunday before the Kite Festival, March 8th, the Kite Festival, and then the Sunday after the Kite Festival. So we captured 3 different dates. Kite Festival is bracketed in the center. And the numbers just jump out at you at how successful that was compared to a typical weekend.
Was it sunny all 3 days?
You know what? We could drill in and actually find that out. It takes a little bit more work, but we've got that capability. Now, what's interesting here, what jumped out to us is our businesses out there at Fisherman's Wharf were busy on that Sunday for Kite Festival. However, look at that dwell time. It's actually a little bit less compared to a typical Sunday. So what that tells us is that there's opportunity there to be able to capture those people and have them stick around a little bit longer. And maybe that's something that the marketing people out there in Fisherman's Wharf might be able to look into, is they may have some specials or some discounts or something like that would encourage people to linger more. The demographics of the people that come to the Kite Festival are high. So the time dwell paradox. Despite attracting 3,000 additional visitors that day, average time on property fell a few minutes. So they're there for the event. A lot of them stuck around, but a lot of them just came down, looked at the kites, and were gone in an hour. So here's the hourly traffic pattern.
Sorry, a question on that.
Yeah.
I know you do geofencing in this. So when you say they came down, looked at the kites, is the geofence only like the pier area where retail is, or does it include kind of Veterans Park where the kites are?
Great question. For our methodology on this, and this leads to a recommendation I was going to make a little bit later on. Our methodology for this is that we geofence just the Fisherman's Wharf out to Kincaid's or so, that area. We did not include International Boardwalk or Multi up where the surf club is.
But how far south do you go? Do you stop at like,
We stopped at Bob
Lin-
Resnick's property on the
Okay.
wharf there. We
Okay.
did not actually go out to the beach. We could. I've got probably 40 different geofences down there,
Yeah.
depending on what we're looking at. We just have to create what you really want to look at. And actually, I'll skip to my recommendation.
Well, so that would show you
It-
people that came, but they didn't bother to go.
well, I'm sort of thinking like,
Get
you know,
shots at
what
the
I'll do, I'll walk through the pier and get a cup of coffee or a churro, and then I'll walk south for, you know, half an hour,
Yeah.
and look at the kites, and then maybe come back. So my dwell time might be a lot longer than, you know, 68 minutes if you include the area with the kites, but I'm not spending any money when I'm looking at the kites, so.
And there's not many places to spend money
Yeah.
down there where the kites are. We could look at just where the kites are. We could do it together. We could really geofence anything that we wanted to.
I think what you're doing ends up making sense because we care about the retail income on the pier. That's what we're trying to drive.
That was our thought for this.
This might, like, the visit time might actually be longer. It's just 300 yards
Yeah.
south of where the cash registers are.
Well, let me skip to my recommendation. My recommendation is you're the Harbor Commission. You know better than I what's important to you and what sort of metrics and data that you'd like to see. If you've got some ideas as to what you would like to take a look at, such as that, pass them on to staff. And we've got the model set up now. It does not take very much effort at all to be able to throw a report together. We could send it over to staff and they could distribute it.
I'm sorry if I keep asking questions, but do you share this data with the Pier and Harbor Association?
We make almost all of our data. This is all, if somebody wanted to invest the time and money, they could find the same data. So there's no secrets here. We've got a drone. We fly the harbor occasionally to help out with property management issues. We make all the drone footage available for free. Data like this, we will make if somebody asks for free. I've already reached out to one tenant. I said, hey, I've got some data on beach life. Are you interested when I'm done with it? And they said, absolutely yes. So all of this, we try to push out there. We try to be very transparent in sharing with what we've got.
Yeah, I guess my recommendation might be to give this exact talk to the Pier or Harbor Association and let them know there's visitors here they're missing.
Yeah, and I'm talking to Victoria already about getting some of that data for some specific events. She and I were talking, and actually we ran some preliminary data on, the Thursday evening summer bands. Well, who goes to which band that's playing? There's a big difference. And sometimes it'll surprise you.
Yeah, and do you capture those people or do they just walk home and vanish? Yeah.
Exactly. And so we've got all that ability to be. So for example, in Victoria's case, we could actually run some numbers on each Thursday night during the summer, which bands, which type of music that people liked and stuck around for and dwelled longer. And that would help her curate, the next summer's lineup for people. So it's pretty exciting, very useful stuff. I mean, folks like you that are on the commission are in a great spot to be able to utilize data like this as you go through your deliberations and advisory, role to the city.
But I would just agree with Roger here that as far as looking at a larger geofence, if you will, because what is important is how long does it increase the time people are spending on the International Boardwalk, for example. It'd be nice to know.
All right, so this is the trade area reach. In other words, how far do people drive? And you can see on the festival day, definitely people drove further to come here. You can also see they're more affluent than the typical weekend visitor. And all of this is available to you if you want. I mean, we've got it all in PDF and PowerPoints that staff can have and can distribute it to you. Let me go back to that. People's income level, you can see it skews to the higher side during the Kite Festival. Okay, there's the ethnicity and language that people typically speak. And you can see how that changes because of the Kite Festival. I mean, I used to live in Asia, and obviously kites are a bigger deal culturally over there. People enjoy them more than necessarily we do here in the U.S. So, you know, if something like this, what this tells me is that this sort of event is custom made to coincide with other events, where maybe you want to bring that group of people that are really into kites, or other people that are into the In and Out car show, or coincided with Beach Life Festival. I mean, there's lots of different ideas that I thought of as we were going through this data. So it's education, higher education for the Kite Festival, employment profile, managerial executive, professional specialty, tends to swing towards the upper income, more highly educated group. And interesting, Kincaid's Restaurant was the biggest beneficiary of the Kite Festival. Now, think about it. Generally higher educated than a typical weekend, more money than the average person on a typical weekend. Kincaid's is a little bit more expensive than our typical restaurant down there. They benefited from this. So we just picked them out to just see if the demographics that we were seeing skewed towards a little bit of a more higher end restaurant, and it does. So this is just some different ideas, the 1 through 6 up there. You know, festival visitors average 4 minutes fewer on property. What can we do to get them to linger longer? They earn more money. They drive from further away. If you're going to drive from further away, you probably aren't going to hit much resistance if you give them a reason to stick around a little bit longer, as opposed to just getting in their car and driving all the way back. So that's the key findings for the Kite Festival. Big lift, 42% over the baseline Sunday. Dwell time, we can do better than that with marketing, for sure. Kincaid's did great. All right, so this next report is the In and Out Car Festival. So over there on Multi, what we did is that we took the Saturday before, the 10th, January 17th, which is the event, and the Saturday afterwards. And on the right-hand side, you can see there's a big visitor lift, quite a bit more just car show visitors. Average dwell time was over 2 hours. So going left to right, in the blue, Saturday before, car show day, Saturday afterwards. Big change in the number of visitors. That was very successful. And just the anecdotal evidence, just talking to people that were down there that went to it, they said it was a great time. Big increase in dwell time. That's good for our restaurants and our other businesses down there, as compared to the Kite Festival, which actually saw a drop. Hourly traffic pattern, a little bit earlier in the day, it was Saturday morning. Trade area, well, a lot of people drove from quite a ways away. I mean, take a look at that orange bar right there. So obviously locals came, but a lot of people came from 30, 50, even 100 miles away for this. That is a very healthy event, if people are willing to drive that far just for that. So here's the demographic overlay. This was the first baseline Saturday, January 10th. I didn't want to do all three. I thought it would clutter up the slide too much. But what's interesting about the demographic here is that median income, disposable income, house value, median wealth, everything is down a little bit from what you would typically see on a Saturday. However, there was a lot more people.
Can you go back a couple slides?
Yeah.
Actually, it's this one I want. Yeah, one thing I noticed interesting here is that we got a lot of people coming in from 30 miles to 250 miles. When I look at the locals, that visits actually dropped down from the weekend before and the weekend after, if I read this correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Perhaps people that would normally come down there on a Saturday just thought, I'm not into cars and it's going to be a big crowd and maybe I'll avoid it. Who knows?
Do we know what the weather was for those weekends?
Could find out.
Okay, yeah. I know we had a lot of rain during January, but I'm not sure which weekends were impacted.
I was going to say, I feel like, remember that Steve Martin movie where he was the weatherman? You know, what was the weather like on that weekend? Sunny. Dated myself. All right. So back to the income levels, you can see where typical Saturday income levels skewed higher than what we saw for the car show. So we're getting a lot of different events that are bringing a lot of different people. I mean, I don't know anybody, maybe somebody does, but I don't know anybody in Redondo Beach that wants Redondo Beach to look like Newport Beach, or, you know, and just to have that feel. I mean, we like Redondo Beach, you know, and the working harbor. There's actually fishermen out there. International Boardwalk. I mean, I used to joke when we started down here, you know, years ago, that I needed to go out and buy those temporary tattoos, you know, to put on my neck or something in order to not scare the tenants. I mean, I walk down there, I probably look like I work for the FBI or something like that. But you know, we don't want Newport Beach. I think that's part of what CenterCal ran into, you know, with opposition from the community, is that they were going to turn it into Newport Beach. I mean, I live up in Redondo Beach, and I saw what happened with Terranea. Terranea is fabulous, but an awful lot of local people can't afford to go there. You see what the parking is? I mean, parking's what, $25, $30 just to park? You know, they say it's free parking. Well, there's 40 spaces. There's never any available. You've got out there, and so unless you want to walk a half a mile, you know, to get down to it. But Terranea is absolutely awesome, but they really priced out, you know, a lot of the local people. And I saw that coming with CenterCal, because nobody was talking about, well, what's the parking going to cost? What's the valet going to cost? Where are you going to park? I mean, how much is food is going to be? And I thought, I don't think people are going to buy this, and they didn't, as virtue from the vote on the ballot measure. So I see this as a healthy thing. We got lots of different events that appeal to a lot of different types of people. So again, this is car show broken down by ethnicity and language. So definitely an increase in Spanish speakers and other. I don't know what other languages they're talking about. A little bit less in English. But again, I think this is healthy. It just shows that we've got a really balanced community in who we try to invite down here with these different events. So education tracks with the rest of the demographics, a little bit higher education on a typical Saturday. And here's the professional specialty. Again, it tracks a little bit less of the professionals, a little bit less of the managerial executive. You know, you get down into production and transport and food prep and serving, and there was a big uptick in people that wanted to go to that car show. And here's just some strategic recommendations. So capitalize on the extended dwell window. They're spending more time. Offer tiered pricing alongside premium options. Target OC and Inland Empire communities pre-event for marketing. I mean, obviously people will drive a long ways to go to this particular event. So again, that is just a summary of the results. And that is it. So our plan I promised Victoria over at the Pier Association that we would do the boat show and a couple of other events like those summer concert series that we talked about. So we're working on that. And hopefully this, I gave you some hard copy handouts, and hopefully this was interesting and it'll give you some things to think about and use this data and the capabilities of this data in your recommendations and for the city to, continue to attract events. Just having spent a fair amount of time looking at these and changing the methodology and looking at this from a bunch of different angles, what this tells me is we should have more events down here. I mean, we're not seeing events that are thrown against a baseline Saturday that is just flat. If we throw an event, people come. If it's a car show, they come. If it's a kite festival, they come. If it's beach life, I mean, how much more diverse can you get? There is an appetite down here for events. I'd like to do the farmers market, on the one that we have on Thursday down there. So there's lots of different ways to measure it, but the biggest thing that I got out of this is that there is a huge appetite for events and lots of different types of events. And that's good for the city, it's good for TOT, good for our local businesses, good for the rent. We could all benefit and have fun. So that's what I've got for the presentation, and questions.
Yeah, question. I think it's really interesting to see the different groups of people that are brought in for these events, and I think that's super helpful information. Do we have any information about how the businesses fared between those same weekends you looked at? Like, did this mass amount of influx of people translate into dollars of business done for them, or is that all independent on them? And have you talked to them, like your tenants?
Property management sees that, both in the percentage rent report, so we could gather that data, for example. We also can geofence down to 5,000 square feet, which is still pretty big. But for example, when I was geofencing Tony's, what I did is I geofenced out over the water, so the data wouldn't be polluted by people walking by or something like this. So there's ways to work with it to actually get specific locations on the pier, or if it's big enough, even specific businesses, like Kincaid's, Surf Club. I haven't run Surf Club yet, but that would be very interesting to see what they're getting on a given weekend versus prior to them opening.
Yeah, because I think it'd be interesting to see, does that influx of people just simply equal more people here, or is it actually equaling more business happening?
Yeah.
To know who's benefiting the most from those influxes, what types of businesses?
Yeah, because what this data uses is accepted trade data that's gathered from around the country. In other words, people that go to music festivals typically spend X number of dollars, okay, when per day when they're at a music festival. So what this data does is it takes a look at how many people are there, and then they add those dollars onto it, and that's how they come up with those numbers. But the real answer is to be able to gather it all from the actual merchants that are down there benefiting from it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to pull in that. The other thing that would be interesting, and I don't know where you would even get this data, a lot of these festivals come from like a private citizen, Alan Sanford, starts the Beach Life or the In and Out, and some are driven by the Chamber of Commerce, right? I mean, but it'd be interesting to know how that breakup is and where to go to try and stimulate more festivals. That would be, to understand how the origin of these things, the genesis, and how do we create an environment where we have more of these things.
It's a diverse group. I mean, the city does it, with the Parks and Rec, they're very active with it. They've got what do they call it? The Chalk Festival or something?
That was King Harbor Association.
Yeah, that's King Harbor Association. That's Victoria that's over there. She does a lot of those things. Alan Sanford, as you said, does a lot of these things. I'm not sure who does the Kite Festival.
A Pier Association.
Pier Association. Yeah, so Pier Association is we're working closely with them to help them with this data so they can target better and more events.
Oh, and what about the summer concerts?
That's the Pier Association.
That is the Pier Association. So a lot of them from the Pier Association.
Yes.
Yeah, she's busy.
Okay. Because we really need a Renaissance fairs. No, I'm kidding. No, but I mean, we need more festivals, no matter what they are.
Years ago, the Scottish Festival down in Orange County? Years ago, the Scottish Highland band that won the big contest over in Scotland and got a free trip to the United States to go to the Scottish Festival here were staying at the Sonesta Hotel. And this is back when Pete Carmichael was the harbor director. And they all came out of the Sonesta Hotel over to that parking lot where Surf Club is now. They all came out in their shorts and their flip-flops and all their instruments, and they were practicing. Well, a couple of people complained. They called the city. And I got a call from Pete and said, hey, can you go down there and ask them if they got a permit? Well, I went, okay. So I went down there. They were amazing. Yeah, they're just in their flip-flops and they're just out there practicing. They were incredible. They were starting to draw a crowd. And I found the Scottish guy that was in charge, and I said, I mean, you guys are great. Just wanted to see if you talked to the city about getting a permit to, play outside. And they went, what? We don't know anything about that. And he goes, do we have to stop? And I thought, somebody may kill me up at the city, but I said, don't stop. You guys are amazing. And I just walked back. I called Pete up and I said, Pete, don't fire me. I said, they were so amazing. And the people that were down there that were just stopping and watching them. But this sort of spontaneous, fun type stuff, I think is healthy to have.
Yeah, and I completely agree with your takeaway, more festivals, right? I mean, and it would be really interesting to get the data to say, does the car show, I mean, what is the boost to the, even though like I'm with you, I love diversity, so it shouldn't matter. It's just interesting to know. I think all of these would be benefiting the businesses, no question. And it'd be interesting to know what those numbers were, though.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to target the Mongol motorcycle game national convention. I mean, sorry to any of my friends out there that ride motorcycles, but I think that's a pretty safe bet to say. But this sort of stuff really does help us target what people like and what's successful.
Yeah.
All right,
Do you think I'll get some hate mail from
the Mongols? You better not, because I know it's one thing you really don't want, Brian, is hate mail from the Mongols.
I have a couple questions. I know you're trying to get out of here and back to see your son, but first, thanks as always for coming. This data is really great. Your data has always been great. This is unusually interesting and insightful. I listen to a lot of, financial news and stuff, and to hear, and I kind of knew all this stuff, but to hear the local slice of it is really interesting and really sobering. You always end up kind of giving us a good news story at the end. Like, Pier Plaza is doing unusually well. Like, the old wooden buildings in Pier Plaza compare well to downtown. The thing that makes me a little nervous for this is a comment for staff, is we're only seeing a limited slice of all the leaseholds we have. So I would be curious, and this is outside your scope, I would be curious if we could see, some slice or some sample of how the other leaseholds are doing. Percent occupancy, percent income on rates. There's some stuff that's stuck, like Maison Ritz, and we shouldn't overlook that. There's some stuff that isn't leasing well. Empty slips in King Harbor, where we're not maximizing our income. And if we keep an eye on those, maybe we'll be able to see a problem, help them out, advertise for them. People ask me, what's available. I've tried to help a couple restaurants get in here. And if we're only looking at this slice of stuff, we're not seeing the whole harbor picture. We come away from this with kind of a rosy thing. You regularly tell us, hey, we're like 95% leased, right? What are we right now? We're really high.
Is 100% leased.
But pier-wide, we are not. Correct. So, a little bit of feedback on this for staff is, I'm curious, how we're doing outside of this. If there's any data you could give us, even on the master leaseholds, like, what's our monthly income? You don't have to give us numbers if that's sensitive, but, percentages up, down, percent occupancy, percent full. So that's one piece of feedback. I'm curious how the other leaseholds are doing. And then the second piece of feedback I'd give to staff is, this is such valuable data. I wouldn't necessarily make you go out and give this speech 10 times, but you should send these blue folder items and this YouTube meeting link to the peer association and harbor association. And if people want to flip through this, I think they'll learn a lot. I think any business could learn they're missing something on the kite festival day or whatever, just to see what kind of data is available. Then my third piece of feedback for the commission, when I started doing this, I started subscribing to the advertising emails from harbors up and down the coast. He mentioned how much is being built in San Pedro. The San Pedro Peer Association is particularly interesting to subscribe to. When you see the amount they're building, the concert shell, other stuff, it looks like a good time, and we're going to be in competition with that.
Yeah.
So you might, take a look at what they're building down there. Anyway, thanks very much for coming. Thanks a lot for this
Yeah,
data and all
my
this
pleasure.
work putting this
My
together.
other background is economics, and I like this kind of stuff, on top of the real estate side of things. So I like doing it.
Really cool, thank you.
Yeah, really great data, Brian, and I enjoyed it. I had a question for you. How much was the Pier Plaza, I don't know that you would know this, but how much was the Pier Plaza lease buyout? What did the city spend on that?
I have got an idea, but it's going to border on a guess.
Okay.
So I'll not guess. But the problem with these master leases is that once you get within 15 years of it expiring, it becomes less and less financially acceptable for these owners to reinvest into the property. And so they tend to just milk them. I'm not talking about just Redondo Beach, I'm just talking in general, is they tend to just cash flow them until they can get it renegotiated and pushed out again, or they eventually walk away from it. So Pier Plaza was, when the city bought it, I mean, the city's not a real estate firm, obviously, and so they went out and they took bids from private sector like us to manage and lease it. So we won that bid. And when we took over, I mean, it was 50% vacant. It was the old Torrance courthouses, and the other tenants down there were like court reporters. And I mean, it was a bleak environment. I mean, it was traffic. It was like traffic court, and it just wasn't a fun. It wasn't the type of environment you would want on your pier. You want family friendly. You want lively. You want. I worked really hard to get Savoir Faire, the International Daycare Center down there, because I just saw them as being a perfect fit, not just as a tenant that's going to be successful, but just the vibe that they're going to bring with all these families with their kids and dropping them off, picking their kids up afterwards and walking around the pier, grabbing lunch, grabbing dinner. I mean, it's a great vibe that they bring.
Yeah, and I guess where that question comes from is you said that the Pier Plaza really wasn't made to make money for the city, but obviously it is. I mean, we're obviously making quite a bit more money than we have to pay out in maintenance. So I was wondering maybe that was balanced against the lease buyout, right? I mean, the maintenance can't be anywhere near as close to how much we're making in rent on there.
Well, look, the city bought Pier Plaza back in 2012. Okay, and then CenterCal happened. Then the litigation happened. There was not several years, there was many years there when the results of the litigation were in doubt. And so it didn't make any sense for the city to be replacing roofs with 20-year roofs, for example, if they might end up, having it fall down. I mean, when we first came on, it was going to be a 1.5 to 2-year assignment because it was all going to be torn down and CenterCal was going to rebuild the whole place. So it's turned into a multi-year assignment since then. But to get to your question, we froze leasing for a number of years. I called it a leasing pause in litigation because there was some question as to whether or not the city would even be able to go into leases. So let's not do any. And then on the tail end of the litigation, we had COVID, and everything was locked down. So there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and the condition that the city always had on property management is that they not have to put money into Pier Plaza. Let's make it stand on its own, and it's done that. Now, it was 99% leased. We got it up to 99% leased until the Center Cal litigation, until the leasing freeze happened, and then we started bleeding some tenants. And then, of course, COVID came.
Yeah.
But we're much better off than what we were before. But there was, for example, I was talking to to the Pier Plaza management about the methodology of how you determine operating expenses. Well, when you replace a roof in a building, you don't just, that's a capital expense. You could depreciate it over the useful life of that roof. So you can't pass all that through, on to tenants as an operating expense. There's a methodology. A concrete sidewalk's has got a different useful life than a roof. Do we put a 30-year roof on, or do we put a 10-year roof on? Because there's a significant price difference on it. We were buying used air conditioning units for the roof the first few years down there, because there was no point in buying a $20,000 new air conditioning unit that was going to last 20 years when it was all going to be torn down. So
the bottom line,
there's a long history there, but that property is paying for itself. But again, as it gets older and older, it costs more to maintain it.
well, if we can catch up with the deferred maintenance, it shouldn't, right? I mean, we should be way exceeding that at some point once you catch up with all the maintenance.
Well, and a lot of that work has been getting done over the last couple of years. I mean, a lot of the roof repairs have been made, and a more permanent approach has been taken. But to answer your question, despite the gradual increasing in maintenance costs, I think given enough time, it will be a money-making place. Now, not as much as Center Cal wanted to put a hotel up there. Okay, not as much as maybe a hotel would throw off with TOT and associated taxes. But until that day comes that the city decides to do something with Pier Plaza, it will last a long time, and it will cash flow going forward. But it was never, the price that they paid for it was not designed to be like a real estate deal. We're going to buy this because we're going to be making money. It was to control that property. If you take a look at the property acquisition, sorry if I'm going off topic here a little bit, but if you take a look at the property acquisitions that the city did in anticipation of the Center Cal transaction, they bought Pier Plaza. A couple months later, they bought International Boardwalk. That was a steal. That was a real estate grand slam, was to buy out that master lease. And then they got an option on the Moldy property.
Yeah, although I want to stop here for a minute, because it depends. They're just buying out a lease. They're not actually buying the property. So if the lease, if it got to the end, they would get it for free. Exactly, you know what I mean? It's like for instance, the Fun Factory. I don't know how many years they bought, 5 years or something for $9 million. But if they had held out for the 5 years, it would have been free, right? You're only you're buying time.
That deal. Part of our job was to give advice when asked, and if we saw some policy that just really wasn't going to work at the street level, say something about it. The Fun Factory deal had already been done by the time we got on board, but I couldn't believe it. I kept looking for the contingency clause that if the big Center Cal develop never happened, that Fun Factory could just stay there and continue, but it wasn't there. But anyway, it's water over the bridge. I try not to too much Monday morning quarterback people on real estate deals from years before, because I wasn't in the room. I wasn't privy to everything that was there, but that was an unfortunate.
Right, it was just
history has shown that was an unfortunate
yeah, I was just basically saying we were buying time, not the land.
But the other real estate, Moldy that the city got, International Boardwalk, even controlling Pier Plaza, those are regardless of how Center Cal turned out, those are hugely important real estate transactions to get control of that back.
Yeah.
So that's how I looked at it. I thought even if Center Cal never happens, the city's got control of all this real estate again, so they can control their own destiny.
Yeah,
I think we're sort of, sorry, let's, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I do have a question, or just to re-echo what Commissioner Warwick said about tying actuals and what we can glean from the TOT kind of the next time we have this sort of review, it'd be really helpful. And then I do think, because of where we are, it'd be key to put like what the weather was that day, because I imagine it strongly impacts. But I was just curious, aside from, you know, how do, like, you decided to pull beach life or kite festival or look at Kincaid's, how is this shared with the merchants, or do they request, or I'm just, there's a lot of value in what we're learning, and how is that being used with the retailers?
This is all very new. I mean, I consider all this, the data that you got is sort of a beta
Okay.
project. Our philosophy, though, is to push as much information out that we have. I mean, unless there's some proprietary reason or the city doesn't, you know, for contract negotiations or something like that, you know, with the tenant, we share information. And we
Right.
think that's healthy for the tenants. We think that's healthy for the city.
So we've shared some of the peer association events with Victoria, who does the marketing for the peer association events, because she's looking for new sponsors for the upcoming year. So we were able to share this information with her. So when she goes out to have these conversations with potential sponsors, she can show how many people come to the events.
Oh, okay. Great. And then I guess along with that is like Rex and Park also, when they see this sort of data, do they get tasked with like, oh, there's a bunch of blank weekends we should try to fill up with that different things, or?
Brian is the one with the login for the placer data, so he's been sharing it with me.
Yeah.
How the events typically work is people reach out to the city about wanting to put on an event. So the Community Services Department leads the special event permit process. And we are kind of looking at making sure we're streamlining that process to encourage and have more events, and kind of working how we get the sign off through the different departments, and how we can add staff capacity to make sure we're processing permits on time. So they are outside events that come to the city that want to do something, typically in Seaside Lagoon or down in Moldy. But we are very excited about it. So we're looking at our own processes to make sure that we're capturing these events.
Okay.
And we've got a license for the whole state of California, so
Yeah, I was just curious if we're being proactive with using this data to try to draw things versus just respond to them. And then I also wonder if there's opportunity with like the high school marketing group or El Camino to like, hey, here's all this data, like go solve, you know, find a solution for increasing revenue in the harbor, and it could be an interesting project.
Not many people have licenses to this data. I mean, if you're a huge organization, if you're UCLA or a big company, I mean, yes, they do, but it's a big commitment. We're
Yeah, but
a
I mean,
very
like
small
if
firm.
we gave this information to, you know, a small group or something,
Or to AI.
or AI, free labor.
But we were fairly early adopters on this, and so we were able to work out a pretty
Right.
good arrangement with the providers of it, and so,
Well, thank you very
and we
much.
love it. So, all right, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I have one more thing to add on that. City, he said that all the moorings were filled for beach life, and I don't think we'd had that in the past.
The Beach Life Festival rents out all the moorings from the city.
Oh,
That
no matter
weekend.
if they actually get filled.
Yes,
Ah, okay.
yeah, so.
I was gonna say.
I was going to say, I've never seen them full either.
Yeah.
All right. Public comment?
Good evening, Commissioners, staff. Mark Hansen, King Harbor boater. As always, stating the obvious, just a huge amount of valuable information that he brings to us. I want to start off on an administrative item, which is that this wonderful information is a secret, okay? It'd be ideal if this would get attached to the commission agenda at the 72-hour point. It would be good if it just got there ever. I was checking up until 6:05 today and nothing there. I have a potential tenant for our harbor, and she was saying, oh, I'll go review the information. I had to say, no, there is no information to review. And I was gonna send her something up till 6 o'clock. I sent a desperation email to all of you to see if anybody had anything. It sounds like you guys got some stuff. Commissioner Carlson referred to it as a blue folder. Nope, we didn't have a blue folder. This information is not available to the public today, so I couldn't provide it to that potential tenant. I also would have probably sent it over to some of the businesses in the King Harbor Association. Here we're talking about beach life over and over and over tonight. It would have been nice if, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna guess that the beach life owners didn't know that they were gonna be referenced. I'm having deja vu because just a city council meeting or two ago, they discussed the Seaside Lagoon, and they city council kept talking about beach life, beach life, beach life. But I checked, and yeah, the beach life guys had no idea that was even gonna be there. So we're really missing our communications with some of our businesses, clearly. Events, yeah, we need to do more events in the harbor. The mayor recognizes it. He had a little special meeting with some of us to, as he called it, activate the harbor. He's made the obvious observation that we have basically volunteers, running things in the harbor, and we just don't have the staff. We never ever have, our waterfront department, 3 or 4 people, they can't run events. So to your question, yes, no, we don't proactively do anything. We wait for somebody to come knock on our door and say they'd like to do something. We used to have a wonderful event called Seafair. I'd like to see us try to get that going. Again, we just had the Boater Safety Day, which could maybe be grown into that. As I think you all know, we greatly expanded the holiday boat parade, working very closely with the businesses this year. The chamber would like to do more events, but I will tell you candidly, they got kicked in the teeth a little bit. Their big 5K, 10K, they ended up getting charged a lot more money than they were expecting, and they're having to dig out of a financial hole at that one. So sometimes we don't do well for ourselves that, we tax our volunteers out of existence. Brian mentioned new music venue opening on the pier. That's where the old Brixton's is. It's called Deep End Live, and it is already open, and all kinds of great stuff scheduled over there. Gold's Gym, the strategic plan mentions trying to do something with that, either look for a tenant that's coastal dependent, or see if we can do a land swap with that. The mayor opined in his commercial plan that, maybe it's not good for something coastal. I kind of disagree with him on that. It's right across from the harbor, but I think we have to be more proactive about finding somebody to put in there. Finally, strategic plan mentioned the market hall, and that's something that'll be a big deal. Something maybe you guys want to form a subcommittee to take a look at that now that it's on the strategic plan. I got all that in 3 minutes. Thanks, guys.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you. Anybody online? I know we have one e-comment.
Nobody online, and one e-comment in support of filling the Fun Factory space.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion among the commission?
I just want to make a point. I think that Brian is not producing this information. He has a subscription to a service, and I'm sure he has a license to use that service. So I suspect that one of the reasons this information is not widely handed out is because of that licensing agreement. The lab that created this AI product that puts this product together, I'm sure they want their due out of what is produced.
Well, Brian has said that he could distribute as much as he wanted to. I don't think he has a restriction from that.
He can, but I don't think that means handing it out to anybody to go redistribute. If I contact him, or if I contact the city as the harbor commissioner and I say, I would like the report on the boat parade statistics to give to the boat parade committee, I can get that for that specific purpose, not necessarily I can get that to go out and start talking to lots of people with it and giving it away for free. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? When you subscribe to a service like this, there can be limits. And that's why he says, if you want something, ask me for it. But when you say, just go out and give it to everybody, I doubt he can do that.
Yeah, I think Roger's point of just distribute, or maybe you said it, the URL to tonight, and like that's a strong step.
We don't even have these.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if that may be why he isn't distributing them that way.
Oh,
My understanding, these will be added to the blue folder and be part of the.
Yes, this was just wrapped up right before the meeting started. We didn't have it before the meeting, so we'll be sharing it after.
If it's here, it's public.
Yes,
Yeah, it will be
correct.
public, yeah.
I just didn't know if maybe that's why we weren't getting it. I didn't understand it was coming.
All right, anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file.
Motion receive and file.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, on to item N1.
Yes. So I'll get started just talking a little bit about beach life. I know we just talked about it extensively, but just from the city side, it was a very successful festival. All in all, we just heard about all of the people it brought out. I also did hear from the hotels and the businesses that they had record number of visitors. The hotels were at capacity. Over the 3 days, we didn't have any major medical calls, just typical calls and responses that we have during the festival, but nothing, no serious calls. And then unfortunately on Sunday morning, there was the swatting call. So just to talk about that a little bit, we did receive that around 9:30 in the morning. The police department did jump right in and took it very seriously and shut down the pier. They brought out the bomb dogs to sniff and to go around to look for explosives. That was part of the swatting call. And after they had cleared the pier of anything, they did do a double sweep of the Beach Life Festival fairgrounds. And that was just out of an abundance of caution. There was never any kind of calls leading us over there. We just wanted to make sure that since there was all these people coming out, that we were taking all necessary precautions. So the festival did reopen to the public around 1:35. The police department did keep the dogs on site just to make sure throughout the festival there was no issues. Everyone was properly scanned and checked, and bags were checked when they went in. And the city did allow the festival to go later than it was originally planned. So they went until about 9:57 Sunday night to accommodate for the lost time at the beginning of it. This is still being investigated, so we don't have any updates to share. We don't have a culprit yet, and we are working closely with the FBI on it. So right now, that's really all the updates we have, but it was just a big thanks to the police and fire department for kind of keeping everybody safe, and for the festival organizers, you know, we all kind of worked together to make sure that safety was put first. Going through some of our other updates, we do have the Harbor Commission, the notice to apply to fill the commission spot. That application is open through June 11th at 5:30 p.m. So you can apply on the city, or if you know people interested, they can apply on the city website for the vacant position. Our Public Works Department, they have just completed the repairs to the hand launch. They did redecking and they had to put a new pile in. So the hand launch is done and complete. Some other, on the International Boardwalk, they are also, we've just started some night work for the manhole covers. So they are going in and kind of cleaning out those manholes, and this is work that's been needed to be done. So we're allowing them to do night work on the pier, or on the boardwalk. So it'll be Monday through Thursdays in May from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we're trying to keep it away from times when people are out there, and they'll make sure to keep the manholes covered while they're working on it, and there's somebody above spotting it, so there's not any kind of giant holes just in the ground that people could, you know, could slip in. So that work is going on through the month of May. On the some of the projects we're working on, the public boat launch project. So we do have our consultant, Moffett and Nickel. They're working on revising the design because they're updating a few of the technical studies. So when we met with DBA, we were looking at ways to bring down the cost of our proposed design a little bit. And something that came out was the level that the consultants wanted to raise Mole D for sea level rise. We're trying to confirm that that's the correct amount. When they had done the wave run-up analysis before we came up with alternative E, so they took kind of an estimate between the scenarios that alternative E most closely aligned with. So we're having them rerun those scenarios to really fine-tune the wave run-up for the selected design alternative. So we're hoping that they'll have some updates for us by the end of the month, and then we can certainly engage the subcommittee to look at that and review the information. But these are some changes that DBA was requesting us to make that we're trying to study to see the impacts. For the Basin 3 HUD, grant from HUD, we are working with the city manager's office on getting this grant implemented. So we did submit the action plan to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who is the grantor for this work. And I got confirmation today that they've opened it up and they're reviewing our action plan. So the action plan is the first step of how we plan to use the money for us to be able to go ahead and start using those funds. The local coastal program amendment. So council approved the contract with Dudek. They are the lead consultant leading that work. They've done numerous local coastal programs up and down the coast, Southern California and Central Coast. So we think we're in very good hands with them. And then as part of their team, they have Moffett and Nickel and SWA on the team as well. So SWA did the public amenities plan outreach and the boat launch outreach, and Moffett and Nickel also did the boat launch. So there'll be some familiar faces with that project. We'll be having a kickoff meeting with them at the end of the month, and our department will be working closely with the planning department on this project because it's a bit of a joint project because we're now also including all coastal areas in the city per the state requirements. And we do have a new senior planner or principal planner who has a lot of background working in LCPs. So he'll be working closely with us on this project. And then the first tasks that the consultants will be working on is kind of doing the reviewing of the existing documents and everything that's been done to date. And then Moffett and Nickel will be working on the sea level rise vulnerability assessment throughout 2026. So those are some of the first projects or tasks they'll be working on. The breakwater repair project. So we've been reaching out a lot to the Army Corps to try and get some updates on how the project is going to run and if they're still looking at the same schedule. We just found out from them. They submitted their harbor access permit, so we just found out from them they are looking to get going, and they're planning to start construction or start work the first week of June. They are still working on their submittals, and it looks like from their plans that they're back to the original idea of staging at Moonstone Park and at the yacht club. So they are still wrapping up their submittals. So we are trying to schedule a meeting with them ASAP to bring out all of the stakeholders so we can come together and understand exactly what their plans are. They've not been very forthcoming with their plans and how they want to run this project. So we've been doing our best to try and get as much information, but we are trying to pin them down this week to get dates and times from them so we can let everybody know what is going on with that work.
Sorry, quick question. Do your stakeholders include Lanakila?
Yeah, we're going to be reaching out to them. So
I'm thinking if this impact on Moonstone is like the filming and it's, most of June, July, that's a headache.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to, figure out. And the fact that they're still going through submittals and they have 3 weeks of that and they want to start June, just really trying to get some serious information.
Same thing you said last month.
I know. And we'll make sure to bring Harbor Patrol into that too, because we want to make sure everybody's on the same boat. There wouldn't be any construction activity over the 4th of July holiday weekend. We've also asked them about the Santa Barbara to King Harbor race, not having any construction then, because I know the last year we were requested to have that as a a no-work weekend. So we'll be reaching out to all the stakeholders to get that meeting planned ASAP. Any other questions about the Breakwater project?
You said Yacht Club and Moonstone Park.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you mean all the parking around those facilities, not like on the grass of the park, or?
Correct.
Okay.
It's kind of the staging there at the end where that parking
And
sort of
then
appears.
I've lost track of time. A year ago now, maybe this is going to happen. And Greg had talked to, I think, Majestic, or I don't know, there was going to be some plan that he was talking about for parking to utilize. If they're losing all of the public parking along the park, some accommodation elsewhere. And I don't know how far he got because we were waiting for the stakeholders meeting.
Do you mean for construction parking or for visitor parking?
For visitors.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly look into that and see.
Those lots are 100% full Monday through, Monday through Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, my memory on that is hazy. That may be what turned into the pure parking study, because that may have uncovered that some of the Port Royal and Shade Hotel lots are less utilized, so that could be where the overflow goes, but
Oh, maybe.
I'm hazy on it.
Yeah, there's,
I mean, there were empty parking lots in that area during beach life. So there's underutilized parking
there's
nearby.
like 90 individual paddlers that are there those 6 days of the week. So
Yeah.
maybe not 90 cars, I don't know, but it's a lot.
Okay. We'll certainly keep everybody posted, and we'll get out a meeting invite ASAP for stakeholders.
And I guess also, is the staging you said, like, would they use King Harbor for part of it and Moonstone for a subsequent part, or both sites the whole time? Or
I am not sure, to be honest, since they haven't submitted their final drawings to us or to our engineering department. So that's a good point. I'll check.
Because I do know that the Outriggers club's usage of the lots drops off a little bit starting in July.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah. We'll certainly follow up about that. Next, Fun Factory. So we are still, we've submitted the required reporting that we need to do when we do have vacant space that we're looking to lease as a municipal entity. So we've submitted that to the state, and they are working on their review of it. And we're supposed to hear back in 30 days, and they've already been communicating with us, asking a few questions. So that's really promising to hear that they're looking at it. So hopefully not too much longer. And then our consultant is conducting due diligence and working with a preferred operator to look at the space, the construction that's been going on that side of the parking structure. It is complete in the Fun Factory space. And it's still ongoing for the parking stalls. So it should be done right before Memorial Day. They've just hit a lot more issues than they expected to hit. But the Fun Factory space is done, so we're hoping the consultant brings out the prospective operator shortly to come visit. And for Save 25, so tomorrow I think we mentioned that we applied for supplemental funding for this grant cycle, and we were awarded an additional $25,000, so we're bringing that budget resolution to council tomorrow night. And then we also just applied at the end of April for the Save 26 grant cycle. So that runs fall 2026 to fall 2028. So we just want to keep making sure that we kind of keep reserves since we know we have funding now, but the next cycle goes out through 2028. We just kind of want to make sure we always are able to assist when we can. And then So the next Harbor Commission meeting, if there's any other questions about current
Can you
items?
remind me, what is Save 25 again?
The surrendered and abandoned vessel
Okay,
exchange
thank you. I
program.
wasn't, okay.
I had one comment on the boat launch project. I think I know what you're going to say, but they're re-looking at the wave studies as a way to save money. So that means if it showed that we could rotate it yet more clockwise to provide improved safety and, larger ingress egress on that channel, that wouldn't be an option because the goal is strictly saving money by having a lower parking lot.
What it is it's trying to right size. So for alternative E, they had already done the wave run-up analysis. So they just took the two E was in between and then kind of estimated what they thought the wave run-up was. So it said we needed to raise Moldy a significant amount. So what they're trying to do now is to run the wave run-up analysis specifically for alternative E to understand what the impact is. So rather than, taking the estimate of the two, they're looking at running that scenario. So there's no other changes to the proposed layout or design, either land side or water side. It's really just rerunning the technical study for the specific scenario.
Okay, yeah, I guess the best compromise would be like, oh yeah, it doesn't have to be that high and we can rotate another 5-10 degrees. Okay.
And then looking ahead to June, so the next meeting is scheduled for June 8th. We don't currently have any topics for the agenda for the June meeting. I also won't be here in June. I'm actually getting married, so I will be off for a little bit. So I just wanted to let you all know that I won't be here, but if we are looking to keep that meeting, we're happy to still have it. I just won't be here.
And just for clarification, we've got public safety coming in July, correct?
Correct. They're going to come in July because we can bring our new harbor master in July to introduce themselves.
All right. So I guess any discussion on possibly canceling the June meeting?
No, but I had a random question, which is to Mark's comment about the market hall. I don't know how that happens or when that gets discussed. But it's
council level.
It's a council level thing. Okay. It's kind of exciting when the bottom line is.
It's still a little bit further out, but definitely something we're, talking about and working on and kind of, it's just not to the level yet of kind of reporting out on.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Hanson.
Public Director's Report.
Okay.
Commissioners, staff, Mark Hansen, King Harbor Boater. I think I mentioned this once before, but for staff, the Giant Cure Cancer Regatta is on July 11th, and that uses up every parking space, and cars are illegally parked because it's not only a boat race, but it's a big fundraiser for cancer research. And so there's live auction, silent auction, music, all kinds of food. So I would highly, highly encourage you to chat with the breakwater guys about avoiding that one also. And then just one small question that I was asked and I didn't know the answer to back during the public amenities plan, which a couple of you served on. One of the things on our long list was dinghy parking, so people could bring their dinghies over and enjoy all of International Boardwalk. The last I remember was Craig Stanton, the marina manager over there. He was just informally being a nice guy and saying, oh yeah, park over here, and he was kind of taking care of people. To my memory, I don't think we'd formalized anything yet. We had pictures, back during the amenities plan showing some spread out, but showing in particular the concept of taking one slit maybe at the far end by Naja's and having that a place where everybody could just cram their dinghies in to come enjoy. So at some point, maybe we can address, where we are on that one. Thanks so much.
Actually, my understanding is that slip is actually in use right now for dinghy parking. and it's actually paid parking.
The dinghy parking is along the boat hoist where
Right.
that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we have and that's courtesy for the people at the moorings. Craig does work with them to tell them, let them know where they can park over there. And then the courtesy dock would be for somebody visiting from Marina Del Rey, and they're just there for the day and they park at the courtesy dock. So we have both of those in operation now.
Right, I knew the courtesy dock, you had reported on that one, but what I couldn't remember is if we had an official program for parking dinghies.
I can take this one. I saw it just today. We do. It's on the DocWa webpage and several other web pages, and it's on the mooring. It's any web page that talks about King Harbor moorings talks about this. It's the south side of the docks, as she said, under where the hoist used to be.
Okay.
Not where the active hoist is, but the south side of that. And that was in use during beach life. It's in use now. It's on all the pages on all the moorings. So we have a dinghy dock. It's where the second hoist used to be. And in addition, we have the courtesy dock.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I knew we were doing it informal. I just couldn't, somebody asked and I wasn't sure if it was formal yet.
It's
So thank you very,
formal
very
and
much.
written and on a webpage, yeah.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
And hopefully more to come with boat ramp and courtesy parking and, the queuing dock. Sorry.
okay.
That was out of
And
order.
for the June meeting, I'm not hearing any suggestion that we cancel the meeting, so I guess we'll be going forward with that.
Well, I was going to make
ahead.
I was going to make a
Item N
motion, at
or-
least try to see what the vote was.
Okay,
So,
Are we in item N yet? Are we,
this is item
Doing
N.
an item-
Item N is, yeah.
well, I wanted to make a
Item
motion.
N is, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I
commission
wanted to
items
make a
for-
motion during liaison's report, and we went to
Yeah.
public comment. So
Yeah.
just to test the water, I'll move we cancel the June meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sure.
All right. Okay, I guess we have the June meeting is canceled. All right, now on to item N.
Sorry. Thanks.
Item N, commission member items for future commission agenda topics.
I had one thing. So a few weeks back, City Council talked about Seaside Lagoon, and then it was all of a sudden rushed to spend this money, which shouldn't have been a surprise that all of a sudden we wanted to spend money. But what surprised me was that we didn't have any harbor representation. It was just Rex and Park. And it just, obviously we have the consultants that have the memory of the evolution of how we got to the design that was approved and the phasing of that. But what came to light that night was not any of those ideas. It was more of a stripped back version of the first phase one. So we have the consultants that have the memory, but is your department still involved in like making sure we do the little smart things? Like they did talk about that night about the corner, if we're gonna cut that corner, round off that corner, let's do that now as part of this instead of having a bigger issue later. Other things that I can think of are like running, I don't know how much of that is, they didn't go into much detail, but I don't know how much was like breaking up existing pavement. So like if we're breaking up pavement, let's do smart things now, like running the gas lines and, electrical that we talked about having for AV equipment off to the side. Like Parks and Rec wouldn't have that memory because they weren't involved in those parts of the conversation all the time. So I'm wondering, how is that memory being retained or what is this department's involvement in that going forward?
Yeah, so Seaside Lagoon is run by the Community Services Department. So for a while, our department was leading that charge on that project. And it kind of has made sense now for them to take it back because they also have their own operational concerns that they want to make sure are incorporated into the design since they're the ones kind of working it every day in and day out. So they have become the lead department on it, and we are supporting from the waterfront side of the work. So that is definitely something I can reach out and provide an update on. They are working now and they're submitting their entitlements and everything to building, and they're hoping, to keep the for construction to start in early 2027. But in terms of those items, I would need to just follow up with them about it.
like, how does that work? Does that never come back to this group or that subcommittee then? As this phase is built and future phases? Because
Yeah.
it really should be a synergistic thing, because I think this group and Parks and Rec have different, they look at it from different angles, right? I think this group has spent more time on what should the amenities be and the details, and my impression was their focus at the time was more on like just execution versus retaining the, I don't know, nuance of what it should be. So do you see those departments working together, or the commissions working together, or it won't come back?
The departments are working together. That is, who is on the subcommittee for Seaside Lagoon?
From here,
Yes.
the two of us.
Okay.
And the mayor at the time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to check in and understand how the subcommittee and how Harbor Commission is involved with the project going forward. I know they've been, we have a grant fund for it, so they're trying to make sure that we can build it and manage it for the grant funding. So I'll certainly reach out, but all the departments in the city have been very closely involved, making sure this is a priority project, making sure we get it over the finish line. So let me check in with the community services about that.
Thanks. That's all.
Anything else?
I've got two, actually. So this is a question I actually had for staff, and you bounced it back to me and suggested I talk to the chief. So I heard secondhand that Harbor Patrol officers were working the first aid booth at Beach Life. I heard that secondhand. Haven't been able to verify it myself. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if they were there for 2 minutes. I don't know if they were there, all weekend. I'd like to find out. And I'm not trying to throw a rock at the chief, and I'll let him know that. It's more of a budget issue to me, because if we have a budget or staffing issue where Harbor Patrol officers have to work a first aid booth, that's not a, fire department problem. That's like a budget problem to me. So, I'd be unhappy to hear that. The first aid booth is important. I mean, people OD and need a Narcan shot, and, bad things happen there, but it's also like the busiest weekend in our harbor. So, that's something I want to look into. I don't know and the reason I'm bringing it up here is in case anybody here heard anything or saw anything, or, saw any staffing or good coverage on the water or bad coverage or whatever. So I'll look into it and I'll find out. Second thing I wanted to bring up is a year or two ago, we put a shark buoy out there for Shark Lab, and it's pretty active right now. The little aggregation of white sharks moves around with stingrays. Some years it's down off San Onofre. Lately last couple of years, it's been up off Will Rogers. This year, if you've seen the paper, the Easy Reader, it's been Hermosa. And these are little guys. They don't bother swimmers, according to studies, but still, it's something to know about. So our little shark buoy is pretty active, and they're putting more local temporary ones up around Hermosa. The Shark Lab guys have been out there doing studies and tagging, and our harbor department, our harbor patrol group and Baywatch have been supporting it. I got to go out with them one morning. It was fun. One thing we found out in that is that there's shark fishing in California is legal for certain species of sharks. There was an issue several years ago on the Manhattan Beach Pier where a fisherman caught a white shark during a cross-country swim, and the shark on a line swam into a swimmer and bit him. And that's kind of, he turned out to be okay, really cool scar. But, that's bad for tourism, which is the purpose of the Shark Lab and the Cal State University of Long Beach study. Manhattan ended up banning shark fishing off their pier. Hermosa has not yet, that I've heard, and there have been sharks caught and pulled up onto the beach, and again, that's bad for tourism. We also have not banned shark fishing from our pier or our beach. Maybe we should. I don't think that comes from here. I think it comes with me bothering my city council person but something I wanted to mention here, and, you know, maybe you can bother your city council people as well. I would just copy what they're doing in Manhattan, you know, just lighter fishing gear, you know, no steel leader, no heavy fishing gear that shouldn't be around swimmers to begin with, because we have a lot of swimmers just south of our pier where the fishing goes on. So anyway, just cool stuff in our ocean.
All right.
Thanks.
Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all right, okay.
There you go.
Motion by Commissioner Krzan, second by Commissioner Warwick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
All right, meeting is adjourned.
congratulations and happy marriage.
8:25.
Congratulations.